Welcome back to Reds Fusion LFC. What a whirlwind at Anfield, Reds. Liverpool have hit a shocking low after that minging humiliation against Nottingham Forest, and the pressure is building fast. Arne Slot says the blame is on him, brutal decisions are being made, and transfer gambles are coming back to bite, including the costly call involving Alexander Isak. Even Marc Guehi has weighed in with a bold message. Stick around, because we're breaking down every twist, every mistake, and what this means for Liverpool's season. Let's dive in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated with every twist and turn in the transfer window. Minging Liverpool in serious trouble after Nottingham Forest. Humiliation. Liverpool have now lost 6 of their last 7 matches in all competitions after a 3-0 defeat at home to Nottingham Forest on Saturday afternoon. Legend John Aldridge has branded the Reds' defensive record absolutely minging following Saturday's shocking 3-0 home defeat to Nottingham Forest. The reigning Premier League champions have now suffered defeat in 6 of their last 7 outings across all competitions. Arne Slot's squad endured a humbling 3-0 reverse at Manchester City prior to the November international break. Slot's troops have now succumbed by an identical margin this weekend, leaving them languishing in the bottom half of the standings. The Reds presently occupy 11th position in the top-flight table and risk falling 11 points adrift of pace-setters Arsenal should the Gunners overcome Tottenham Hotspur on Sunday afternoon, reports the Liverpool Echo. Regular Echo columnist Aldrich has now delivered his assessment of Liverpool's turmoil through a sequence of messages on social media platform X, Twitter. The former Reds forward highlighted the quantity of goals, shipped 20 in the league now, as representing their most significant concern. He remarked, "It's become serious, folks. Defensively, since we won the league last season, our goals against record is absolutely me. I've said in my columns from early September, we need 3 goals to win a game, and it's nearly December, and it's still the same. We will always stay behind the team 100%, but..." followed by several exasperated emoji faces. Aldridge subsequently referred to encouraging victories over Aston Villa and Real Madrid several weeks ago, which now seem to have represented a false dawn for Slot's squad. He further commented, "It's looking like the Villa and Real Madrid games were a false dawn. I'm lower than a pig's belly, folks. The last time I saw so many people leaving early at Anfield was when we beat Man U 7-0. That's how bad it was." Liverpool's captain, Virgil van Dijk, admitted after the match that the team's performance on the pitch had not been up to par. Acknowledging that the issues in defense are serious, he stated, "We concede too many easy goals. They scored obviously from a set piece again. You can ask if he was in front of Alisson, but it counted, so we're 1-0 down. We were not good in terms of battles, challenges, the fight, too rushed. It's a very difficult situation at the moment. There was nervousness after we conceded, but not before. We tried to rush things, and that's human when you're in a difficult moment. We cleared the ones before, and in the end, we're in a very difficult moment. We don't get out of it by just speaking about it. It will take a lot of hard work. It's a problem. Everyone on the team has to take responsibility as well. Football is a team, and everyone has to take responsibility. We have to digest this and take it on the chin. We need to work harder. We have to keep going." Arne Slot. Liverpool job isn't in danger yet, but this simply cannot go on. Ian Doyle with the verdict on Liverpool's dreadful Premier League 3-0 defeat at home to Nottingham Forest on Saturday afternoon. When Liverpool were beaten at home by Nottingham Forest last season, the defeat became a running joke among Reds supporters as their team sauntered to a dominant Premier League title triumph. Nobody of an Anfield persuasion will be laughing now, though, after another reverse against Forest highlighted the many problems with which Arne Slot simply has no option but to address immediately. With Liverpool chairman Tom Werner watching from the director's box, this was precisely the wrong time for Liverpool to post one of their worst home performances in a very, very long time. Statistically, this dreadful 3-0 reverse matched the heaviest Anfield defeat in the Premier League era, echoing the 4-1 losses to Chelsea in 2005 and Manchester City in 2021, but those were against teams who had recently been Premier League champions. This, with the greatest respect, was against a Forest team who started the day in the relegation zone and came with a textbook Sean Dyche game plan that even those with only a cursory knowledge of football would have anticipated. Defend deep, keep players behind the ball, play on the counterattack, and then make the most of any set pieces that fall your way. Yet it was comfortably far too much for Liverpool to handle, as it has been for much of the last 2 months. This a 6th league defeat in 7, an 8th loss in 11 in all competitions. That's not just terrible form, that's relegation form. The Reds nearer the drop zone than runaway leaders Arsenal. Only 3 teams, West Ham United, Wolves and Burnley, have shipped more goals than the 20 Liverpool have leaked in their opening 12 Premier League games, their worst such record since 1992. It was also the first time since 1965 the Reds have lost back-to-back league matches by a margin of 3 or more. But the real worry probably isn't the margin of the defeat. As horrible as it looks, Slot's biggest concern will be the complete lack of reaction from his team, having gone behind to a controversial opener from Murello on 33 minutes. The goal eventually allowed after a lengthy VAR check, despite Dan Ndoye standing in an offside position in front of Alisson Becker. There were more than a few echoes of the goal Virgil van Dijk saw disallowed at Manchester City a fortnight ago. Another contentious decision at a key juncture in the game, but if the opener again underlined how fortune has certainly not favored Liverpool since they lifted the Premier League title in May, that is absolutely no excuse for what came next. The Reds were shockingly bad. A meek performance in the final hour among the most unforgivable of recent times? Yes, there are the usual caveats of an overall lack of energy post-international break. Liverpool, though, offered no real convincing argument they would ever get back into the game once they fell behind. Continuing their trend of taking precisely 0 points from losing positions this season, Mohamed Salah aside, the attacking threat was minimal. Florian Wirtz, while heavily scrutinized since moving to Anfield in the summer, was a major miss with his creativity. And then there was Alexander Isak, making his first Premier League start in more than a month. Isak touched the ball once in the opening quarter of the game, once that by the time he was hooked midway through the second half. He'd moved on to 15. Teenager Rio Eng had only one fewer, and he only came on in the 78th minute. Poor Isak, not since 1906 has a player been on the losing side in his first for top-flight starts for Liverpool. And while his teammates aren't blameless in giving the player better service, the striker simply needs to do more. After all, £125 million is a lot of money. But there are issues right through the team. The enforced absences of Connor Bradley and Jeremy Frome, along with the curious resistance to starting Joe Gomez, meant Slot conjured up a mishmash of Dominic Szoboszlai returning to right back, while Curtis Jones came into a slightly reshuffled midfield that appeared more 4-3-3 than 4-2-3-1. All that did was strip the engine room of its most influential and combative figure this season, with Alexis Mac Allister and Ryan Gravenberch then both way off their best. Indeed, Liverpool fans weren't happy when Cody Gakpo and Gravenberch both appeared to pull out of challenges, the former allowing Murillo to amble forward and test Alisson from range first half. That changed the mood inside the stadium with Forest going ahead a few minutes later, to think Liverpool actually started the game reasonably enough. Mac Allister having a goal-bound shot brilliantly, headed clear by Elliot Anderson, while Forest were compelled to make a raft of desperate blocks. But the game was effectively over when Liverpool were caught napping at the start of the second half, and Nicolosa turned in a cross from former Reds defender Nico Williams. Slot subsequently played some of his trademark moves, hauling off the hapless Ibrahima Konate at 2-0, down and throwing on attacking players. But, as has increasingly been the case this term, they made little difference, with Morgan Gibbs-White netting Forest's third late on. The chance of your getting sacked in the morning, aimed at the Dutchman by opposing supporters with each defeat, have previously been laughed off given the credit in the bank from last season's title success. Slot isn't in danger just yet, but another repeat of this utterly abject surrender, and questions will have to be asked among the Anfield hierarchy. This simply cannot go on. Arne Slot gets Liverpool gamble wrong, as Alexander Isak pays price for transfer decision. Theo Squires on the whistle analysis as Liverpool and their £125 million record signing Alexander Isak struggled terribly in the 3-0 home loss to Nottingham Forest ahead of facing Nottingham Forest. Arne Slot admitted his frustration that Alexander Isak had been unable to feature more for Sweden during the November international break following his return from a groin injury. He then conceded that he might have to compromise his Liverpool team selection and select the striker over fitter players in an effort to get his record signing up to speed once and for all at Anfield. The Reds boss opted to make such a calculated gamble against the East Midlands outfit, but it did not take long to see that it had quickly backfired as Isak found himself looking way off the pace in another ineffectual display, isolated in attack. His total of just 14 touches was by far the lowest of Liverpool's starters. None of their other outfielders recorded fewer than 40 touches during the 26-year-old's time on the pitch. Meanwhile, a horribly scuffed shot in the 64th minute was his only effort on goal before his premature withdrawal 4 minutes later. Prior to that, he had been one of only 3 Reds outfield players, along with Ibrahima Konate and Ryan Gravenberch, not to try his luck at goal. In truth, the only surprise was that Isak lasted past the hour. With Hugo Ekitike introduced after 55 minutes, the Swede could have had few complaints if he had been the man to make way for his fellow striker. The Frenchman, fresh off scoring his first goal for his country, can feel aggrieved to have dropped to the bench, while Federico Chiesa offered more when he was introduced from the bench in place of the former Newcastle United man. Isak has now made 9 appearances for Liverpool, but his only goal remains a League Cup tap-in against Championship side Southampton back in September. In the past, Nottingham Forest had been the side to light up his eyes most. He boasted a career-best 6 goals against the Tricky Trees from just 4 Premier League appearances, having netted in all of his previous meetings against them, but such a run came to an end with a whimper as a shock 3-0 loss saw the Reds fall to another dismal defeat, their 8th in 11 games with such a drought, dating back to when Isak made his first Premier League start for the club away to Crystal Palace back in September. Slot might have been frustrated that the possible risk of suspension had left the British transfer record, signing unable to gain valuable minutes for Sweden, but both player and club continue to pay the price for his disjointed preseason at Newcastle, having essentially gone on strike to force through his belated deadline day exit now. Isak is not to blame for Liverpool's woes. The club's record signing is simply one piece of a much larger puzzle that is yet to come together, and Slot is still trying to work out, but he failed to vindicate his head coach's gamble, with his muted display only reiterating just how much work he still needs to do to rediscover the form that earned him a move to Ant in the first place. But the frustration that he has so far been unable to justify his £125 million price tag goes on, even when the Reds had been on top against Forest prior to falling behind. Not once did he look like threatening the Escorisache. It is easy to say in hindsight, after such a defeat, that Slot made a mistake opting to start him, but it was a selection decision that should not have been made. When the Dutchman led Liverpool to the Premier League title in his maiden season, it felt like everything he touched turned to gold as every single decision paid off. But after another lackluster loss, those days now feel a long time ago. Marc Guehi sends 3-word message. As Arne Slot makes brutal Liverpool decision, Marc Guehi was poised to join Liverpool on deadline day in the summer, but Crystal Palace blocked the move. With the centre-back set to become a free agent at the end of the season, Liverpool target Marc Guehi has heaped praise on his Crystal Palace teammates following Saturday's comfortable 2-0 win over Wolverhampton Wanderers. The centre-half came close to sealing a £35 million switch to Anfield during the summer transfer window's final day. Nevertheless, Palace blocked the proposed move after being unable to bring in a suitable replacement. Failing to land Guehi wasn't initially viewed as a major setback for Arne Slot's squad, given the England international's Palace deal runs out next summer, potentially allowing the Reds to snap him up without a fee. Yet, Liverpool have endured a nightmare campaign at the back this term, shipping 20 goals in Premier League action already. Ibrahima Konate has particularly struggled in central defense and was ruthlessly hauled off by Slot during Saturday's woeful 3-0 home capitulation to Nottingham Forest. Konate's difficulties, combined with uncharacteristically shaky displays from the usually dependable Virgil van Dijk in the heart of defense, have coincided with impressive showings from Guehi at Selhurst Park. The 25-year-old recorded yet another clean sheet this weekend, as Oliver Glasner's side climbed to 4th in the table. The England defender opted to celebrate the collective effort after strikes from Daniel Munoz and Yeremy Pino delivered a straightforward victory at Mont. He said, "Well done, team." In a brief 3-word tribute, alongside multiple action shots from the clash with Wolves, it remains uncertain whether Liverpool will return for Guehi in January to address their defensive struggles. Manchester United, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, and Barcelona have also been mentioned as potential suitors in recent months. Guehi confessed in October that he remains unsure about his future plans. When questioned about his next career move, he said, "No, because I like to live in the present and I can't be thinking about the future at all because there is a lot of work to do, but also my future is in God's hands. Wherever God wants me to go, I will go, but that will be taken care of at the end of the season." The former Chelsea Academy graduate emphasized he won't allow his contract circumstances to distract him ahead of next summer's World Cup in the United States. He added, "For me, it doesn't really matter, to be honest, as long as I'm playing well and helping Palace. There's definitely an opportunity for me to be here as I am today, whether it's sorted or not. It's not really the most important thing, to be honest. Personally, I don't know if I can think that far ahead. I like to just take it step by step, and that is just focusing on the games that I have at Palace and any upcoming opportunities I have here." When deadline day happened, it was all a blur. To be honest, I'm still the same young man trying to find his feet, find his way, trying to improve.